what are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz is us. Us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
Welcome back to the second season of Closing the Gap, the truth about black wealth. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Wilbert Hamilton, owner and founder of Hamilton Wealth Advisors, one of the only African-American wealth management firms here in the state of Alabama and one of the few across the great nation of the United States of America. We're here today, of course, with Ms. Kashay Smith. She's a CEO, mother, AKA Sorority Incorporated. She's a member of the Links organization, Selma 40 Under 40, Women's Foundation of Birmingham. She has many titles, has been hugely successful, and she's doing great works in the community, especially throughout the Black Belt area. And, we're lucky and blessed to have her here today to kind of kick things off and, especially to be one of our first female guests. So I've been looking for to bring the right woman on and, one that's basically can represent and, give us a lot of great information and insight, and especially a lot of things that are going on today in society. I mean, you being with the Rural Health Program, of course, we all know what's going on with COVID. And how that's ravaging our community, especially with the lack of vaccinations and, misinformation that's being given out. So, we're thankful to have you here today. And, we just want to kind of find out a little about who Kashay is. Who is Ms. Smith, and, how did you become a CEO, and what has that path and journey been like for you? And, just kind of give us a little bit of background on, how you got into becoming the CEO of one of the largest health organizations in the state of Alabama.
That was an amazing introduction. Very hard to follow. One thing I would say about myself, I'm truly a Southern Belle at heart. Born and raised in a small town called Uniontown, Alabama, in Perry County. Grew up there for a few years, relocated to Selma, Alabama, currently where I'm residing with my family and working from the Central Office of Rural Health. It was truly a long journey getting here, but just a pivotal moment for me in my career. I was actually working in corporate America, had 2 children at the time, and I transitioned from change management consulting to HR development. I remember doing some community outreach work, and it was at a local high school. There were children that were in an outreach at-risk program, rather, and we brought them in. We did a presentation for them, did a tour, and I remember hearing 2 little boys have a conversation like, man, I could never work here. And I was just like, he lives in inner city Houston. Yes, he can. I'm from a very small town. So I volunteered to introduce myself, share my story. And I can't recall exactly what I said, but I guess it was inspirational. But for me, all I can think about was, this isn't the place I want to be. I was happy to maybe inspire those children, but I thought about my talent should be in my town, helping children that were just like me. So from then, that was like 2014, 2015, I made my journey back home. I actually started my own nonprofit. It was, the title of it is the Black Belt Community Development Foundation, and that organization was going to be set up to help families in transition. So families that parents suffered from incarceration, drug abuse, things of that nature, giving them support to re-enter the community as individuals that were finishing their education, financially savvy and able to establish income to take care of themselves and their families, and also getting some behavioral mental health counseling services to help them overcome that addiction. At the time, Selma wasn't ready for that. I remember the mayor at that time, he just said, we don't have the capacity or the resources to have a homeless shelter or transition home within the city limits. I was actually pregnant at the time too with my 3rd baby. Just stomping around the streets of Selma, trying to get some support, trying to have some activities. And I was actually using up lots of my 401k. So happy I met you later on in my life journey.
Passion project.
And I remember right as I was about to have my daughter, the newspaper advertisement came out for this particular position.
Okay.
I didn't apply the first time. After I had her, a family member told me about it again. 6 weeks after having her, they said, listen, this is probably the last time this is going to be in the paper, and you're probably one of the most qualified people here. So I applied. 6 weeks postpartum. I walked in that interview barely fitting in a suit. I remember just being nervous. I had been out of the workforce maybe 6 months. So I wasn't sure how that community was going to take someone like myself as an adult, not as a child. I walked in and I saw 3 people I grew up going to church with, and I just knew the interview was over. Not that I was a bad child, but it's just a stigma coming back to a rural community, a black community, and sometimes your people don't support you. But long story short, 3 months later, I got a call, got the job, and it has been a work of love and the best career choice I've ever made.
Well, like you said, I mean, the first thing you get from what you say is passion. You're passionate about your community. You're passionate about your hometown. Second thing is, and I can relate to it and understand, is that, you know, we have to remember that Jesus was not recognized as a prophet in his own hometown first. Yeah. He had to leave and come back. Right. So a lot of times we have to go out, you know, develop our skill set, continue to grow, and then come back home. And at some point in time, when the timing is right, they'll appreciate us. But, you know, one thing you said, and of course, obviously you can see you were qualified for the job. You know, a lot of different opportunities, but, you know, I want to find out who Cachet was before she became CEO. So how did you know, what made you decide? Because you went to one of the most prestigious, and I believe the most prestigious female university in the United States of America, which is Spelman, you know, College, and of course in Atlanta, Georgia, is one of our, you know, keepsakes, of course, in the African American community. So, you know, tell me what that opportunity was like, and, you know, why did you decide to go to Spelman?
Sure. So, let's see, Cachet, at the age of making decisions for herself, I remember being a 10-year-old girl that had a master plan just to get out of rural Alabama. So all of the electives, all of the sports, all of the pageants, anything not to be just like, you know, all the other young ladies like me. I just had a plan and a passion to do more. And I think that influence definitely came from the people that were around me. My grandfather, everyone in my family was an educator. It just wasn't for me. I don't think that the states pay educators enough, and I just knew I wanted to be successful, and successful was not what they were currently getting paid. So I just remember there was a higher standard for me academically. As far as being engaged, I watched my grandfather as a black farmer opt out of having a grocery store and having a farmer's market. And one of my first jobs it was very humbling. I was delivering produce to elderlies in the housing authorities. And my first job, my payment was cracklings, AC, root beer, and a pint of Bluebell ice cream. That's what I got every other day. So, you know, I knew if I worked hard, I'd get a little bit more. But he definitely taught me the importance of taking care of my people. And I think that's what my first passion of being a community leader was. I watched him. I watched my grandmother, my mother give back to people in the community through education and other outreach initiatives. In high school, I watched my counselors, my teachers. They were very interested in the plan that I set forward myself. I applied for all the scholarships, got none. I mean, Coca-Cola, Bill Gates, Jackie Robinson, it always went to a male in a smaller community. I was on advanced diploma, but no, I wasn't at a 4.0. It was probably a 3.8 or something. And I applied to the University of Miami, which I think I was going to go and have too much fun. Auburn University, toured and almost attended. Spelman, and most HBCUs do this, they contact you before you graduate in May, and you've already made a choice.
Oh, wow.
So I remember April 28th, 2004, I actually received my letter after doing my tour and after accepting going to Auburn, and I had to write a letter and said I will not be attending. I remember the excitement of going to what they called, or we will call, an upper bound program for college. It's a program with 2 weeks you go and you experience what it's like to be a Spelman woman. And when I tell you shows like A Different World or Sister Sister, or any show that kind of portrayed that particular black college environment, it didn't come close. When you walked on that campus, you saw beautiful black women that looked like goddesses walking. And they were all highly educated, not just beautiful. And I knew that I had arrived, and that's where I was supposed to be.
And that sounds wonderful, because I definitely, when I was a young man, I definitely wanted to participate and be a part of that campus myself and have some functions at Spelman University. But one thing that I definitely want to touch on when we come back is the biggest thing I took away from you is that you had a plan.
I did.
And you were working towards that plan all along the way, even when you didn't know it. Right back at you. Welcome to Hamilton Wealth Advisors, where our goal is to change the financial landscape of the African American community by providing the best of the best in financial professionals to help close the gap on financial wellness, wealth creation, and wealth transference. We're continuing to expand and grow our reach and add qualified advisors to our team. Help us to teach our community how to create generational wealth. We're looking for passionate, selfless, and professional advisors that pride themselves in the core beliefs that education plus expertise leads to proper execution. So if you think this opportunity may be for you, ask yourself this question: what is your why? And if the answer is you want to be a professional, successful advisor that makes a positive impact in the lives of all you come into contact with, contact us about joining our team today. As we look to move forward, continue to be a blessing to those who would never come into contact with by creating a successful financial plan today. Welcome back. We're going to jump right back into it. Of course, I'm your host, Wilbert Hamilton, back again with Closing Your Gap. We were talking about kind of your journey to Spelman. And, for someone like me, I didn't have the benefit, and I missed out on the opportunity to go to an HBCU. I was playing football, and at the time I was thinking the best way to get to the next level was obviously to go to a Division I, football college. And so I did so. And I kind of regret that decision in ways, because I grew up on, like I say, A Different World. I grew up on the Cosby Show. Grew up on, going to the Magic City Classic, the Bayou Classic, things of that nature. So, I was, most of my family obviously went to HBCUs, Alabama State, Tuskegee, Alabama A&M University. So, I definitely, was, I won't say well versed, but I was familiar with the black college experience. But I didn't get a chance to actually live it myself. So, tell me a little bit about what that experience was like, being a woman of Spelman.
Sure. One thing I will say is I think in my family, I was the only one that listened to my two aunts who attended Spelman. Okay. So I grew up hearing their stories of living in Atlanta. One actually, two both crossed at Spelman. So as you mentioned, I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So one aunt actually crossed on the city chapter in Atlanta in 1978. And she crossed her younger sister in 1979 that actually founded Sweet New Pies chapter at Spelman. So being the first niece, only daughter of my four aunts to go to Spelman at the time, I knew that my work was cut out for me. So experience-wise, I knew that I needed to pick a serious major, even though it's a liberal arts school. A lot of people sleep on it, but the standard at Spelman is much higher. Where at universities and other colleges, you may have 2-3 credit classes. Ours was 4. It was always a paper, presentation, it was something to set the standard that Spelman is better. And I think it stretched a lot of us, and it groomed us to be the women that we are today. So I'm very thankful for that experience. But other things, like most schools, we had like state clubs. I was a part of the Alabama Club, NAACP, Young Professionals. So things I didn't see back home. But of course, I was in high school, but being a part of these things, you had a voice, you had a role, you felt responsible and accountable to your community. And then you're at a school that talks about, everything is about the success and the excellence of our blackness, and then also being a woman and embracing being feminine. So everything we were in a bubble. so to speak, and they were grooming you to go out and be the best women. I remember freshman year learning about our transition from Africa to the United States and other countries in a class called African Diaspora. They were very intense classes that you were required, not option, you're required to learn where you came from. And it really kind of, whether you were from Connecticut, New York, California, you understood what that Dixon Mason line was and how people that never journeyed beyond what their life was like. So for some young women, it was a humbling experience, and they looked at civil rights, voting rights differently after taking that class. And I think their blackness was enriched once they completed the course. It was for me, at least.
Well, man, it sounds like it. I mean, I'm interested. I want to take that class now because I feel like as an African American, everyone should have an experience like that to connect you, with who you are, where you're from, and strengthen, your belief in yourself. If you know you come from kings, you see yourself as a king.
Right.
If you think you come from slaves, you see yourself as a slave. So that's a part of the psychological damage that, of course, has been done to us throughout kind of the course of history, especially since we arrived, of course, here, and a lot of us were already here. That's a different conversation for another day we're going to touch on. But a lot of us are already here, classified as Indians, but, African Americans or black, whatever you want to call us. But, those are the things that I think we need and we're missing. Those types of, I went to University of Alabama, Birmingham. So, of course, there was no class.
It wasn't an African American studies or arts.
No, we didn't get. They were trying to help us connect with who we are and where we're from. So, I think that's especially unique. And I mean, I don't have a daughter, but if I had one, that sounds like the type of organization, the university I would want my daughter to be a part of, because we all dream of wanting to be the best that we could possibly be. And, I'm a huge proponent of exposure, professionalism, and excellence. And it seems like they preach that.
They did.
On a daily basis and instill that in you. So if you didn't have that full belief, they put that batter in your back and gave you that confidence to step out. And if you already had that batter in your back, it just enhanced it and turned it up that much more. So, I could imagine for myself, I kind of am envious of a lot of my, family members and, guys that I know that went to an HBCU and had those types of experiences, because I feel like I would be so much further along, even in my career, as a black man and as a business owner and as a financial advisor and whatnot, if I had that experience, whereas, I was playing a sport for a school, and I was taking advantage of the opportunity to get an education, but I wasn't put in position to excel and thrive once I left that university. It was like, well, they used me for my skill set, and I had to take advantage of getting that opportunity and getting that education, and then I'm on my own moving forward. Whereas to your situation, they were helping you and building you, giving you that confidence, to go out and be more and be great. And that's something that I'm thankful to hear, you say, and because I'm a huge proponent of trying to get us back to the HBCUs, trying to get us back to, believing in ourselves, because I believe, in my opinion, one of the things that hurts our community the most is that there is a lack of professionalism. There is a lack of excellence, and it really comes back to a lack of belief. You were exposed, to excellence at an early age, even from your grandfather going up, having a farm, having, you working it, him having a, produce stand and whatnot, and, going out and owning the land that, the organization that you now run was started on. So that gave you, a passion, a purpose, and a direction that a lot of people don't have and that we need more of. And I'm thankful to have, people like yourself going back home, to try to pour into the community. And, I know we got a lot more we're going to touch on, and I want to bring back that topic in just 1 second. We'll be right back at you.